Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We have an epic tale to tell today. It's a lot longer than usual. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to the story. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Needs support. D-Day was 10 days ago 129. I won't forget that day now. Am I the cause of the day after our anniversary? Since then I have been reading a lot of posts on this sub. It has been helpful to know I'm not the only one. Now I think posting what happened will help me out. It's going to be long cause I think details matter and I've been playing it over and over in my head every day. Our story. Been with my wife 29 years, married 26. I'm 51M, her 49F, 2 grown kids 24S, 22D. I met in college, dated, fell in love, married, and thought what I believed was a great marriage. Did a lot of things together, talked all the time, communicated about things that were troublesome. Both of us had successful careers that we both supported each other in along the way. Great love life, maybe not as often as when we were younger, but just as passionate. She's in IT and I own a small landscaping company that employs 75 people that I started after graduation. She's been working from home a lot since COVID and we have been talking about my easing out of the day-to-day operations and her going part-time so we can spend more time together and travel etc. now that the kids are established. Looking back, there were no red flags that I've read so much about. No weird texting, no guarding her phone, no clothing changes, no unusual behavior, no nights out with people from work. When she did go out it was friends and family and he always heard from someone the next day how I should have come. But I wanted her to go out without me and I enjoyed being by myself doing stuff in my shop. She always was home early. To say I was blindsided is an understatement. D-Day, the week before I had booked a weekend at a romantic bed and breakfast owned by some friends. Our state is open. Winter festival was that weekend. I leave work early to surprise her and tell her to pack a bag. We're going away for our anniversary. I pull my truck in the driveway and find a strange car there. Right away, I just knew, don't know why, but I did. I'm hoping and praying I'm wrong but my gut is telling me I'm not. I sat there a while wondering what to do, leave and talk to her later, leave and pretend I didn't see it, not sure what to do. I'm shaking so bad I can't see straight. When I have something at work I have to do that might be uncomfortable, I always tell myself, man up, get this over with. Suddenly, the shaking stops and I feel very calm, no idea how, because inside I'm a wreck. I sneak in the back door and my black lab is laying there with a sad face, like he knows, instead of jumping on me. Man, I love that dog. He stays as I quietly go up the stairs. When I get upstairs I can hear what is going on in our bedroom. I get to the door and open it and see her boss on top of my wife. I stand there for a second and yell out surprise. The shit show that followed would be laughable if it didn't hurt so much. He rolls off trying to get out of bed but he gets tangled up in the sheets. My wife is screaming OMG, 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 OMG and trying to cover up but can't cause he's still tangled up. He finally gets out and starts looking for his clothes, only they're on the other side of the bed. This just hit me, in about the same spot where mine used to end up. Don't know why, but I beat him to them and grab them. My wife is crying, I'm so sorry, over and over. I back up to the door and stand there and he's standing next to the bed naked. I grab the big easy chair out of the corner and pull it to the door and sit down. He asks for his clothes and I say no and toss him my wife's robe from the back of the door. He starts to walk towards me. Now, even though I'm 51, I'm in good shape. 6'3", 240. Years of going to the gym and working in landscaping have seen to that. I look at him and say, if you get any closer it's not going to end well for either of us. You'll be in the hospital and I'll be in jail, so why don't you just sit down? Wife is now sobbing into the pillow and he sits down. After an uncomfortable silence, he asks, what now? My reply is I have no idea. Wife is still crying a little but sits up. Finally, I pull out my phone and tell them that they are going to tell me everything while I record it all. They look at each other and my wife asks, what do I mean, everything? I say everything, how it started, how long this has been going on, when, where, hotels, dinners, etc., everything. My wife says this is the only time, to which I yell BS. There is no way you'd be comfortable enough to bring him to our bed if this hadn't been going on for some time. If you lie to me again, I'm walking out the door and finding a divorce lawyer. She starts crying again. So for the next 10 to 15 minutes it all comes out, been going on for over 9 months. Started with him flirting with her etc. till he asked her to lunch and she went. A few drinks later they were at a hotel. She came home to me that night like nothing happened. She swears that it was killing her and she wanted to tell me but didn't know how. Again I call BS, if it was killing you, it would not have been so easy to keep it going. They even went to a week-long convention for work that I used to go with her to. She told me company policy changed and spouses couldn't go anymore. I put my phone away and more silence. Then an idea hits me. I look through his clothes for his phone and ask him for a passcode. He actually gives it to me, so I start going through his phone. I found some pictures of a woman I assume is his wife and asked her name. Carol. She's very pretty, but not as pretty as my Ashley, I tell him. More pictures of kids, find out he has 3 and finally a family picture of all of them. I hold up the phone and say, a beautiful family, why did you throw it all away for a tumble with my wife? His reply, what do you mean throw it all away? Me, you really think Carol isn't going to find out? Him, how is she going to find out? Me, I'm going to call her right now. He stands up and says, no, you can't. My wife screams out, please, you can't do this to him. I lost it. Can't do this to him. You've destroyed me, our family, our friends, our future and broken my heart, and you're worried about him. I'm shaking again, trying not to let her see me cry, but I can't hold it together anymore. I fall back in the chair and start sobbing. She tries to come over to me, but I look at her and say, stay the hell away from me. After a while I calm down and look at his phone again. He again says, please don't, I'm begging you. I swear I'll tell her. Yeah right, I replied. He's standing there pleading with me not to, as I find her number and decide FaceTime would be even better. She answers and hi sweet, looks surprised and says, who are you? Is my husband okay? He is for now but won't be in a minute. I flip the screen to show him standing there in my wife's robe. I say, I believe you know him. The room he's standing in is my bedroom. The flowered robe he's wearing belongs to this woman. Swinging the phone to catch my wife trying to pull the sheets over her head, but too late. That's my wife, and I came home early today to find them having sex. I truly feel sorry for her and lousy for how I did it. She starts crying and he tries the honey, I am so sorry, I can explain, it was just one time etc. routine. I tell her not to believe a word, that's been going on for over 9 months, and that I spent the last 15 minutes recording all the details they were willing to share. I tell her I'm going to text her my number and she should send me her email and I'll send her the video. I give him the phone and I hear her tell him when he gets home there will be a bag packed outside, and if he tries to come in the house she'll call the police and hang up. I toss him his clothes and he leaves after he's dressed. Now, it's just me and my wife. She looks at me and starts to cry, saying she is so sorry, never meant to hurt me, can I forgive her, it didn't mean anything. All the usual cheaters BS. I look at her and tell her to pack a bag and get the hell out of my house. I go downstairs and pour a drink. I'm sitting on the couch when she comes downstairs. She starts towards me and I say, just stop. She asks if we talk about this and I tell her maybe, just maybe, but not now. I tell her it's going to be really hard to not look for a divorce lawyer, and she starts crying again. She looks at me and I know an I love you is coming. I say, don't you dare say that right now, cause I don't think I will ever believe it anymore. More crying as she turns and walks out the door. Seeing her crying walking out the door, my entire life leaving, I break down and fall on the floor shaking, sobbing uncontrollably. No idea how long, but I finally sat down, still crying, and called my best friend. I try to speak but start crying again and can't get the words out. He asks what's wrong but I can't talk. He asks if I'm at home and I kinda grunt yeah and says he'll be right there. 30 minutes later he's in my house. I'm still crying. I give him my phone with the video up and he proceeds to watch. I can't bear to hear it and get us both a drink. He comes into the kitchen and takes me drink away and dumps them both, saying this isn't going to help you. Tells me I can't stay here tonight alone and go upstairs and pack a bag. I come downstairs and he has my lab on a leash and we go to his house. That was 10 days ago and I still feel like absolute shit. I know this was long, thanks for reading this far. I will try to update later. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Since posts have been removed, short update as to what has happened since day, then a few more details. Thanks again to everyone for the support. I spent D-Day night at friend's house. Wife goes to son's and his wife's place. Both kids know why mom was kicked out, affair, but no details. Sat. Morning drive to cabin with dog. Stay till Monday. Go to office on Monday and start phone calls. Bank, CC etc. Call the lawyer I use if I need for my company and he recommends divorce attorney. I called her and met her on Thursday. She says all the right things and I hire her. I talk to my HR manager and tell her everything, a close professional friend. She recommends someone for IC and I call and make an appointment. Have seen her twice and it's helping. Friday, week after D-Day, son calls and says it's awkward having mom in their small apartment, is there any way she can come home? I give in. She comes back sat, but I'm on my way to the cabin. Just to show much I didn't want to be around her, it was below zero the whole weekend, with night lows in the -20 to -25 range. Monday I drove straight to the office. People at work love my lab, he gets spoiled. I stay late, go home and can't even look at her. Go watch TV in the basement, she comes down and asks if we can talk about this. I tell her I'm not ready and leave me alone while she's here. Friday HR manager asks how I'm doing. Lousy I tell her, been sleeping on the couch or recliner in the basement. She suggests I buy a new bed, great idea. I go pick one out and the delivery is sat. I thought about burning the old one like some have suggested, but don't want to clean up the mess. Sat I go to work and wait for the call that Ruck will be there in 30 minutes. I pick up 2 subs for delivery guys and wait for them. I tell them lunch is on me and give them each $25 if they can do me a favor. Leave the old mattress up against the tree next to the street and come back for it at the end of their day. They look confused, but I tell them to give me 5 minutes before they come and we'll get it. I go in, remove bedding, something clicks that I have to ask about. I take a can of Blaze Orange spray paint that we use for marking properties we are working on and spray in big letters wife cheated in our bed on the mattress. Guys follow through and leave it against the tree. Wife says later, they forgot to take old one away. I tell her they are coming back for it. I don't think she knows what I did. Valentine's Day she tries to be all romantic, makes nice dinner which I don't eat. Tries to initiate intimacy. I tell her I wouldn't F her if she were the last woman on earth. She replies, we don't if we make love. I tell her we haven't made love since she decided to be her boss. Can't really describe the look on her face. She goes to the kitchen trying not to cry. I figure now's as good a time as any and tell her to come in LR and sit down. I ask her what she wants to do. I know, stupid move, should we just divorce and move on or should we work to fix this? She tells me she's willing to do anything to fix this, to make it up to me. Not sure how she can make it up to me, but I tell her needs to come clean with the rest of the family before we can try and fix anything. She agrees. That was the last update that was removed. 2:17 My mom dad's been gone 3 years, her folks, sister and Bill came over that night. We all sit in LR and I try to get as far away from her as possible. They start in with the, what's wrong, we love you, it will all be okay, thinking someone is really sick. I look at her and say this story isn't going to tell itself. Her dad looks at me and I swear his eyes are saying oh no, like he knows what's coming. I have to give her credit, she cried her way through and spilled her guts, including me walking in on them in our bed. After a long uncomfortable silence, she says somebody say something. I say what are they supposed to say, that you are a horrible person, that you hurt me worse than you know, ripped my heart out, that you've thrown away 29 years, ruined our family, not to mention what you two assholes have done to his family. Was the sex really that good, that it was worth all that? I just kept going, all the anger, hatred and betrayal I've been holding inside comes spilling out. I really didn't know I could be so cruel. Her mom finally says that's enough. She says that no, she deserves all of it and runs upstairs crying. Mom gets up to go after her and dad says no, leave her alone, she needs to suffer for a while before this can get any better. We talk for a while, they offer support and say I need anything just ask. I tell you I've been in IC and I think I'll be okay but appreciate it. I tell them that despite all of it, I still love her and that she is going to need them more than I do. I go to bed and sleep better than I have since D-Day. Next morning before I leave I go into the guest room and can tell she didn't sleep and has been crying all night. I really think that for the first time since D-Day the enormity of what's happening has finally hit her. Telling her family and having me go off on her like I did, I think it broke her out of the affair fog. She looks like she truly shows remorse. I tell her we need to talk, more like I talk, she listens. I explain that I am 99% leaning towards divorce, but am still clinging to the life raft that is 1%. That if there is to be any hope she needs to do what I ask to help me get over this. She says she'll do anything, just to please not do anything yet. I remind her of a story I told her when my dad died. When I was 17 my dad told me that you'll have hard times in life, but how you handle them says more about you than the hard times will ever do. No matter what, never make important decisions when you are upset. At the time I was like your dad, whatever. I start to cry as I say I wish he were still here so I could tell him that I really was listening. She gets up and gives me a hug. I don't hug her back, but it feels good, which scares me. She sits back down and I tell her she needs to move out. I can't heal if I see her every day. We need to go North Carolina. She agrees and asks me what else she can do. I tell her I'm too emotional now to think straight, I'll let her do what else. On my way to work I called my lawyer and saw if I could come see her today. She's free on her way to the office and we meet for coffee. I tell her what's been going on, the 99 to 1% etc. Ask her to draw up divorce papers to get things rolling if I go that way. She suggests that if I have time and can afford it I should find my wife an apartment and pay for the first month's rent. That if it goes as far as a judge, this will show good faith on my part for an amicable split. I agree and she says she'll have something for me to look at by Monday. I get to work and call a real estate broker that we've done a lot of work for over the years. Tell him what's going on and what I need. He says he knows a good rental agent and he'll have him call me. He calls and says he'll start looking and get back to me. He calls back with a place that fits in price, location etc. I meet with the property manager and give him a check for the rest of February, March and deposit. When I get home I tell my wife I found her a place, what I've paid for, and she has to go meet the manager and sign a lease. It's only a 6-month lease, which is plus I guess. She says that she is surprised that I moved so quickly and I tell her that I needed her not to come home from our sons. While she is gone I call some movers and luckily it's the middle of the month and they can come Saturday. When she gets home I tell her I've done with movers and ask her why he hasn't asked about anything financial. She looked confused and told her I've cancelled credit cards, took my half out of our joint account and cancelled debit card. She seems angry and says she doesn't blame me. Turns out she hasn't needed to spend anything, that her time spent between our sons and home she hasn't gone anywhere or needed anything. I also found out she called her employer and asked for a leave of absence, that she was having personal issues. They let her take her paid vacation if she wanted before starting leave of absence. Friday I tell her she can take whatever she needs for a new place, just leave me something and not anything from the basement and a couple of my family heirloom stuff, and my new bed. I also tell her that I'm willing to try MC. That she should find 3 different ones and I'll pick the one that I think will be the best. I leave early Sat morning and I come home to a half-empty house, including TV. That's okay, I want a bigger one anyway. My friend still has my liquor, so I stopped and picked up my favorite bourbon and enjoyed sipping on a glass while typing this. Sorry this was so long, thanks for reading this far. Tomorrow I'm going to the gym and I'm going to make my favorite chili and go buy a new TV. I'm sure I'll have more to post in the future. Today is 4 weeks since D-Day. Good as day as any for an update. Thanks to everyone for the comments, support, advice and perspective. Sunday night I got a call from my younger sister. Honestly, I don't know why I hadn't told her yet. Our mom called her and told her to call me. She told me to come and visit before I get busy in spring. She and her husband live in SC. I might do that. Monday morning I met with my lawyer and went over divorce papers. 2 big points: she stays out of my company and I keep the house and buy out her half of the equity over a 5-year period. No alimony as she has a good paying job. Land the cabin is on was given to me by my grandfather. If she wants any increase in value because of the cabin I built there, we will talk about that. This is all contingent on her agreeing to this being uncontested. Just waiting for time to be right. Later at work STBXW called and talked to my assistant, gave her 3 names and numbers. She told her I was in and she could talk to me. She said no, just give him the numbers and I'll know what they are. 3 MC therapists, I did know. Assistant comes in to give me the numbers and closes the door behind her and asks what's going on. Why didn't she want to talk to me? She has been with me over 20 years and I know the look, not going away till I talk. So, I told her. She is shocked as everyone else and insists that I have to let the rest of my work family, people that are there now working year round and have been there the longest, know what is happening. I agree and have her gather in the design room. Tell the story again and they are surprised and offer support. I ask my IT guy to come to my office and ask him if he can track STBXW phone calls and text messages. He explains since it's really a company phone it won't be a problem. Later he emails me all he has. I'll save it for later. Before I leave, I call MCs and ask questions. One is polite but short. Next says I can ask at the first session. Not. Third stays on phone with me 30 minutes, answering my questions and asking me a few. My big one is how she defines success. Does that mean we reconcile and get back together? She tells me that to her it's whatever is best for both of us, could be staying together, could be divorce. I set an appointment for Thursday. Tuesday I have lunch with AP's wife. We sit for 2 hours, comparing notes, seeing if either of knows more than they told me on day. Trying to figure why they did this, what did we do wrong, what did we miss. We both agree this is not our fault. In hindsight, she realizes she missed or ignored some red flags and thinks this isn't first time. He left previous company rather abruptly and was not working for a while. I suggest she should ask her lawyer to try and get employment records if possible. Since it might have bearing on any divorce proceedings, there might be a way he can subpoena records. She has been letting him live in basement but never sees him. She asks if I would be willing to do her a favor. Of course my answer. She wants to meet AP for lunch and wants me to surprise him so we both can grill him. When and where, I'll be there. Set it up for Wednesday. That night I went to STBXW new apartment unannounced. Wondering if my decision will be made for me if I find AP there. She answers the door and looks like hell. Like she hasn't slept or eaten since she moved out. 2 separate emotions when I see her. The part that is angry say to effing bad you brought this on yourself. The part that still cares wants to reach out and comfort, protect her. She hugs me and resists urge to hug back. I sit down and ask her for something to drink. Brings me a Diet Mount Dew. I ask her to see her phone. No hesitation, she hands it to me. I spend 30 minutes going through it, no conversation. Several texts to AP telling him she never wants to see him again. How could she have been so stupid to get involved with him, to fall for his BS? That she ruined and threw away the best thing she had in her life. I have what I needed, going to compare what my IT has and see if anything has been deleted. Give her the phone back. Tell her that while I haven't lied to her, I haven't told her everything. Tell her I have a lawyer and divorce papers are made up. No crying, just a look of defeat. Tell her she should get one. She gets an incoming text. Starts swearing on the phone. Shows it to me. It's AP saying he is so depressed and needs to see her. I tell her I can leave if he wants to come over. She tells me no, and shows me what he texts back. Basically, F off and never contact her again. I ask her why she hasn't blocked him. Says, duh, I should know that. I watch as she does. I told her we have an appointment with MC on Thursday. She looks happy, but I tell her don't to get too excited. Nothing is guaranteed. Tell her she needs to make a list of what she is willing to do to help me heal and fix things. Bring it Thursday. I leave. All for now. This is too long already. Have some work to finish. I'll try to update more tonight. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Continuing where I left off, Wednesday morning I lock myself in my office going over all my IT guy sent me. Matches what I saw on my wife's phone the night before. Go to meet AP's wife and surprise AP at their lunch meeting. He freaks out when he sees me. She tells him to calm down and she invited me. He looks shocked. We grilled him for half an hour. He confirms what I saw on STBXW phone records. First 3 months EA, only became physical in the last 6 months. I know, BFD, like that changes anything. I ask if he's contacted or tried to contact STBXW since D-Day. He says no and I called BS. Tell them I was with her when you texted her last night about how depressed you are and really want to see her. AP's wife has smoke coming out of her ears but stays calm. I then ask him what happened at your old employer, why did you leave so suddenly? He says no of my business. I tell you might as well fess up because it's going to come out anyway. Don't you owe your wife some honesty for once? He still refuses. I bluff and tell him my lawyer is going to subpoena the records since it will show a pattern of behavior related to my STBXW in our divorce. He looks scared and confused. After a while he admits to having an affair with a co-worker that got him fired. She goes nuts. Calls him every name in the book. He can get the F out of the house. She calms down before we get kicked out. Starts crying and tells him he needs to leave and pack his things and get out of the house. He refuses. Boo, I convince him to leave and give her some space. She and I talk for a while and she asks if she can have my lawyer's number. Turns out she was going to try and work it out with him until 5 minutes ago. Now she wants to rake him over the coals. We leave and I tell her to call me if she needs anything. Realizing that his life is about to be as messed up as mine puts a brief smile on my face. Thursday, STBXW meets me at MC. Sitting in her office and therapist starts by telling us some ground rules about how hard this is going to be, that it really is up to us if this is going to work out. She says we need to be brutally honest with each other and ourselves and she is there to help in any way possible. She asks who wants to start and I speak up. I tell them both that I will work as hard as I can but it will be tough. 3 things I can't seem to get over. First, every time I see her I don't see the woman I married but all I see is the vision of her boss on top of her, effing her. Second, when I was about to call his wife, her response wasn't concern for me but rather you can't do this to him. Finally, I don't believe she is really remorseful for all the hurt she has caused not only me but our family, friends and AP's family. She's only sorry she got caught. If I hadn't walked in that day, she would still be ducking him. It feels good to get that off my chest. She is crying but I really don't care. Truthfully, I believe she is finally starting to realize all she has done and is starting to show remorse. It might be too late. She starts to talk about how she knows she ruined everything, that it is nobody's fault but her own. How she knows she has to accept the burden of the consequences of what she has done, that her main concern is to help me get over what she has done, but realizes that it might never be enough and I will probably leave anyway. Goes on to say how I shouldn't in any way blame myself, that I have been a great husband, father, partner, lover and best friend. She says that she really can't give me a good answer if I were to ask why, because can't answer that for herself. She started IC yesterday and hopefully she might be able to tell herself why someday and maybe give me an answer. She reaches in her purse and hands her list to me. I tell her to give it to a therapist. She looks at it and asks if I want to go over it. I tell her I'll look at it on my own and we can discuss it next time. We talk for a while and time is up. We agreed to meet next week. Before we leave they both ask me not to do anything yet, that this was a good first step. Today is Saturday and I still haven't looked at the list. Not much else is going on. Kids are coming over for dinner tomorrow. I'm going to give them more details about what happened, what's going on now and ask how they feel about getting a paternity test. We'll update later. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Just a quick update. Dinner with kids moved to tomorrow. Thought I would call STBXW and tell her I needed to talk to her. I had gone and bought a different phone this afternoon at the suggestion of people here to try something sneaky on her. She showed up with a carry out from my favorite Chinese place. Told her to come in but that I wasn't gonna sit and have dinner with her. Before she came over I typed a text to her pretending to be AP telling her wife threw me out. I'm really depressed and need to see you. Please don't hate me. We were good together and can still be, just give me a chance to prove that to you. You know I really care for you and believe you feel the same way. Please, I need to see you. Just waiting for the right time to send it. We sit at the kitchen table. And I start. Tell her about meeting with OBS and the meeting the next day with AP and OBS. About him lying about contacting her, but I hold off on the part about why he lost his last job. Tell her about OBS being pissed off and throwing him out. Explain that I was concerned about him doing something harmful to her, stalking her etc. She needs to be careful. Her response was F him, he deserves all he gets. My response is this: look at me. I look right at her and say, so do you because you did F him. No reply, just a dejected look. I excuse myself to go to the bathroom and send the text. When I come back she looks mad and is texting. I ask her who she's texting and she tells me AP just texted her. I say, I thought you blocked him, acting all pissed off. She says that she did but has a new number and shows me the message and her response tells him to leave her alone. That she never wants to hear from him again. I feel the phone vibrate in my pocket. I ask her about the list, is there anything she wants to add? She tells me she should meet OBS and apologize to her. I'll work on that, I tell her. Explain to her that I need 2 more lists by the next MC. First is the timeline for the affair. Everything from the flirting to first time they had sex to D-Day. She agrees. I tell her I need to let the dog out and I'll be right back. I go outside with my dog. Send her another text from AP pleading to reconsider, that I'll make it up to her. We were meant to be together. I lay it on thick. Come back in and she's texting again and tells me it's AP again. She lets me read text and her reply threatens to go to the police if he doesn't stop. She asks if I can keep her on my company plan. Can she get a new phone or just a new number? I tell her to leave her phone and I'll take it tomorrow and drop off a new one. She asks about the second list and I tell her I want all the details about everything they did sexually, everything. She looks shocked and I tell her to put them in separate sealed envelopes. I won't open them until I think she is not doing enough or that she is lying to me. With that I'm done and tell her she needs to go. She goes and I enjoy Chinese food alone. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Kids came over for dinner last night. Talked for a long time. More on that. I didn't sleep well on Sunday night after the fake texts dumped. That's not me, not who I want to become. Went to STBXW's apartment to drop off a new phone. I ask her if I can come in, I have something to tell her. The look on her face makes me think she thought I had filed. Tell her I have her new phone but that she really doesn't need it. What do you mean? I tell her that I was the one texting her last night, not AP, pause from now on, and apologize for lying to her. She looks depressed and sits down. I tell her that I'm still hanging on to the 1% life raft, but I can't be dishonest if it's going to work. She wipes a few tears. Not the reaction I expected. Thought she'd be pissed. Then she says, "This is what I've done." Looks at me, "You are the most honest, truthful person I've ever known, and I brought you to this because of my selfishness. I took advantage of your good nature, your faith and trust in me, and betrayed and hurt you in the worst way possible. Now, I've never been one to believe the whole triggers idea. Always thought that was something for the snowflakes. Well, I've changed that view." Something about her last statement and the way she said it touched me somehow and started crying, something I swore I'd never do in front of her. Pretty soon I'm bawling my eyes out. In between sobs I managed to get out a few, "How could you do this? Do you have any idea how much you've hurt me, what you've done to our children? There's a hole in my chest where my heart used to be and a few more." She's crying too and sits next to me and puts her arms around me. I get up after we both stop and ask her if she still wants the new phone. She nods, so I give it to her. She asks if I read her list. I tell her yes, it's a good start, but I don't agree with one. She looks puzzled and I tell her the one about me going out and getting laid, having an affair. She tells me that I should. I ask her if she remembered the day we first met. She nods yes. I told her when I met her that day playing VB at school that even though I felt she was out of my league, that if could win her over and build something together, I wouldn't have to be with another woman in my life. After a few dates and the first time we made love, I knew I was right and I was going to do everything in my power to spend the rest of my life with you. Until 4 weeks ago I still felt that way. In my eyes she was still that girl I met playing VB. More quiet and crying from us both. I finally tell her I have to go, kids are coming over for dinner. She tells me she won't ask to join us, that she understands my need to be away from her. I agree and say that I will only see her at MC for a while. I tell her I'm going to talk to the kids about the paternity test. Says she doesn't blame me and she has no right to ask me to believe her, but this is the only time she's stepped outside of marriage. As I'm leaving she asks me to wait, she has to tell me something else. She emailed HR at her company and resigned. She knows she needs to never see her boss if I'm going to heal. She wants to rat him out to HR and get him fired. I ask her to not do that, it might affect her OBS and her divorce. She agrees. Asks me if there is any way that I had any feelings left for her, if I could add her to the company insurance plan since we're still married for the moment. I say yes. Kids come over for dinner. I told them about talking to mom and I had a paternity test. Reassure them it doesn't matter to me, I will always be their dad and will love them unconditionally till I die. Son asked if I believed her and I told him I did. He says he wants to ask her. I can tell he's angry about thinking he needs to ask. I sternly tell him that no matter what has happened she is still your mother. You need to work on forgiveness for her. Tell my daughter the same thing. We talked about that for a while. I also fill them in on what's been going on these past weeks. They leave and I try to get some sleep. I need to say thank everyone for all the support, advice and encouragement. It really helps more than you know. Quick update. First, I had lunch with OBS on Wednesday. She says that she's doing okay, but I really question that. She looked more pale and a little thinner than just a week ago. Said she hasn't seen or heard from Pa since last Thursday. He came by to pick up the rest of his stuff and told her he was going to stay at an extended stay hotel for a while. So, I guess he's not going to be stalking anyone, but I told her she should reach out to her nearest neighbors if she was close enough to them to tell them what happened and ask them to keep an eye out for trouble. She said she would. I asked her if has had the locks changed. Said she hadn't thought of that. I told I would come over, see what she needed and take care of it. She insisted I didn't have to, but I insisted we were now like brother and sister in betrayal, and besides it's less time I'm alone in my house. She has retained the same lawyer that I have and said she seems like a shark that would take him to the cleaners. I said she's your lawyer, you're paying her and she will do whatever you need her to do. For me she's protecting me if I decide divorce is the best option and has everything ready to go. She's also letting me do what I need as I explore the 1% option. I stop by her house and get the locks changed. We agreed to try and talk once a week. Second MC session was yesterday. Hard to tell if this is helping or moving the divorce-o-meter off of the 99 to 1% mark at all. We discussed the list STBXW made up. Lots of good/great things on the list. STBXW admits that because she has hurt and betrayed me and our marriage so badly that no matter how hard she tries it probably will not be enough, but it's through no fault of anyone else but her and she'll have to accept the consequences. However, until papers are signed she is going to try with everything she has to help me heal and get us back together, and if it doesn't work out she will try to help me move on and get past this, however that may look. She knows that because of her selfish behavior things will never be the same, but hopefully we can build something new together. Therapist asks if she is going to IC. She went Friday last week and Monday and Wednesday this week with another appointment Friday. Going to continue 3 days a week for a while since she's not working. Here's the F up part. I ask her if she's going to be okay financially since she's not working. I shouldn't care, right? But I do and can't get past that. She says she has half of our account, got all small severance amount from her company and will take from her 401k if she's not working in 4 to 5 months. Says she is considering starting her own small IT consulting firm specializing in small startups, something we had talked about her doing before D-Day. Therapist gets us back to the list and asks about the whole pass idea. I tell I'm not interested. She asks why. I tell her that this is really the first self-serving thing that STBXW had done since her come to Jesus moment with family. It's not really about me going out and screwing strange women, it's about giving her a way to relieve some of her guilt she feels for the hurt and betrayal she has caused her loved ones, me most of all. They both agree. I tell them that despite not living together I still take our marriage vows as gospel and will keep doing so until we are divorced. Therapist picks up on phrasing right away, on purpose by the way. Until you are divorced? Does this mean you've already made up your mind? I tell her that I said from the start that this was going to be hard to come back from. However, I'm still clinging to the life raft of 1%, but no longer self-serving things like the hall pass, and the raft was going to start taking on water. We talk a while and we're done. Weather is supposed to be warm here tomorrow, so I have guys coming into the shop to start going over equipment for spring work. It will feel good to get going on some projects we have coming up. The fact that this all happened in the middle of winter, cold and long nights and not much at work hasn't helped, I'm sure. Had this been spring or summer I could have found excuses to put in 16-hour days to keep me distracted. Thanks to everyone. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Thanks again to everyone that has reached out with advice, support and encouragement. It really means a lot. Hearing others' stories is very helpful too. This is not an update on my and STBXW. No, this is about POS, the ARSAT formerly known as AP. I know I've mentioned that OBS hired the same lawyer I have. I asked her about this, and she said that there is no conflict of interest etc., and she was happy to help OBS. Since she hired my lawyer, she has had her investigator do a deep dive into POS for things to use in the divorce. OBS called me and filled me with what he found. Let's just say POS is an even bigger POS than anybody knew. Think Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park seeing dino droppings big. First, it didn't take him long to move on from STBXW and start up with someone else at work. Investigator found social media posts and texts between them and was able to be waiting at his hotel when they came from work. My lawyer is going to talk to the woman and get a read on this affair and if she really just a victim. Second, after some digging, he was able to determine that Pos had affairs with 3 women at his previous job, not just the one that led to him being fired. He was able to track them down and they both told the same story of how when they decided to pull back from the affair he used his position to create phony bad reviews and job performance issues including attendance issues. Enough to get them fired from their jobs. They were both married and were terrified of their husbands finding out, so they just kept quiet about everything. It was the 3rd affair that cost him his job. Her husband found out and told his wife she needed to leave her job, and then they both went to HR with evidence of the affair and he was fired. They are still in limbo about their marriage being salvaged. Third, this one is just the killer. Affair number 2 resulted in her getting pregnant. Her husband had a vasectomy years ago, so she was in major trouble. They divorced and her life is in shambles. Husband has custody of their 2 kids and she's left raising a child by herself. He has been secretly paying her child support out of a separate account that OBS knew nothing about, but wants nothing to do with either of them. He is currently 3 months behind on support. My lawyer has agreed to represent all 3 women and file a lawsuit for sexual harassment against his former company. She asked me to talk to STBXW about this to see if there was any job-related pressure during their affair and take action against her former employer, and would understand if I said no. That her first responsibility in this matter was me. I told her no, that I wasn't going to give STBXW an easy out for the affair. So, that's it. I have a hard time imagining anyone being a bigger pos than what he is. If there is any karma in the world, he would get hit by a truck crossing the street. OBS has been advised by her lawyer that having a job or not shouldn't affect any support she will get from POS, so she is going to go ahead and inform HR at his job. I asked if I could have a hand in that. Still working out the details. Next few weeks should be interesting. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Quick update. My house is a mess and I'm going to be living in the basement for a while. Right after the first of the year, WS and I took out a home equity loan and had a contractor I know draw up a couple of plans for remodeling the kitchen, doctor into a bigger great room and redoing the master bath. Just couldn't decide which plan to go with. So, I said, hell with it, I'm picking and let's get going. Before anyone asks, I checked with a lawyer, and since WS had signed on loan and it was disclosed in the 3 appraisals I had done for deciding equity in the house for splitting it, I could go ahead. Kids came over last night to talk. Had good pizza for dinner. I told them about POS's history, about how OBS and I are trying to help each other, about POS lying about me and about what happened when OBS and I confronted him. They were surprised because I've always tried not to show real anger to them, but didn't blame me. Couldn't stop laughing at him pissing his pants. Then moved on to their relationship with mom going forward. Talked about WS coming clean to family and my going off on her. Explained that there is a lot going on with me, and I'm assuming WS, in IC and both of us in MC, that they don't know about. Since coming clean, WS has been different and has shown remorse and realizes how much she has hurt everyone. We talked a lot, they had questions that I answered, lots of how I'm coping and what WS is doing to help me heal. I suggested that they both should see an IC to help them. Son declined, say I am his IC. Daughter agreed to come to my next IC and meet her and then decide. I suggested that they should sit down with WS and I and the 4 of us could talk. That getting things off my chest to WS helped and is still helping me, that maybe they needed to go off as I did. They both thought that was a good idea as long as I was with them. I'll let you know how that goes. Finally, WS met with OBS this morning for coffee. I was there just in case. WS talked first, saying how truly sorry she is for all the pain she caused OBS. How she knows that OBS hates her and doesn't blame her, that she'd feel the same. That she hates herself right now, never puts makeup on anymore because she can't look at herself in the mirror. Despite what a pos is, she was and is responsible for her own actions. OBS wanted to know WS' side of the story, see how much pos was lying to her. I had heard most of it before, but then she shocked the hell out of me. That she tried to end it 3 times and each time pos would imply that her job would suffer. Last time told her that he would go to HR and say she offered sex for a promotion, and then would call me. The idea of him going to convention with her was something he insisted on, along with coming to our house, saying he was tired of paying for the hotel and his wife was always home. WS said none of that really mattered. She shouldn't have let it start in the first place and should have had the courage to end it despite his threats and gone to HR no matter the cost. My hatred for pos went up by 100. I got up and called my lawyer and told her she needed to get over here right now. She wondered why. I just told her where we were and she needs to get here ASAP. Got back to the table and OBS was talking. How she really wanted to keep hating WS, but couldn't bring herself to do that. That pos is really just a con man with women, starting with OBS. She thought they were a great couple in a great marriage. Now she realizes she was just a vessel for him to produce children, cook and clean, and the woman he would screw when no one else was available. Then she told WS that pos must have been shoveling a lot of BS that she fell for WS to throw away the life she had built with me. WS told me that she now knows why she fell for it, but it's still no excuse. She should have been smart enough, strong enough to not go down this road and hurt so many people. OBS told her not to be so hard on herself, that she was just next, and if it hadn't been her it would have been some other woman. WS said, but it was her, and because she let it happen, she's destroyed her family and hurt the people closest to her. They keep talking till the lawyer arrives. I look at WS and tell her she needs to tell the lawyer what she said earlier. I get everyone more coffee and have to leave for work. Lawyer left 2 messages today but haven't had time to call her back. I'll call her tomorrow. MC tomorrow should be very interesting. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. A lot of people have been asking about how my kids are doing. Thanks. They are doing okay. Came over for dinner with their wife and fiance on Saturday. Cooked steaks on the grill. Delicious. Son has been in contact with his mom, even went to see her at her new apartment. I don't think I'd say he has forgiven her, but let's call it acceptance and moving on. My daughter still hasn't spoken to her mom since D-Day. While she no longer has the outward anger she showed before, she still doesn't want to talk to WS. WS has tried to call her several times and she has ignored those efforts. I've told her I will support her however she needs to deal with this, but that it's probably not healthy to ignore her mom forever. Thankfully, they both have their sofa support. The plus side is I've seen them both together more in the last 6 weeks than the past 6 months. MC this past week was good. I questioned what the purpose of going weekly is since we aren't interacting at all. It's not really marriage counseling if we aren't living together and dealing with the emotions of seeing each other daily. We all agree to give it a few more weeks and talk then. The subject of pos and his history is brought up by a therapist. She asks WS how she is dealing with all this new information. WS says that it doesn't matter, doesn't change anything. She alone is responsible for all of this. Says that she is an intelligent, educated, strong woman, at least she used to think so. The series of choices and bad decisions she made to get us here today are nobody's fault but hers, and she has to accept the consequences. We talked about this for a while. Before we are done, the therapist asks how I feel about all of this, if WS's reaction and remorse is starting to change the 99 to 1%. I tell them while we have dealt with 2 of 3 things I said from the start would make this hard, I still can't get past what I walked in on. That many nights I can't sleep because it's playing in my head. When I'm not engaged with something or someone else, work, gym, talking with kids, nothing else to distract me. I think about it a lot. Until I can get through that part, not much is going to change. She asks if I have talked to IC about it. I have to laugh as I tell her pretty much all we do talk about. OBS and I still talk daily. I told her WS wants to meet her and apologize to her. She says okay and let's do that next week. OBS tells me about a lawyer meeting Poz's new AP. Contacted her at work. Asked her to meet her at a coffee shop in the lobby of AP's building. Tells her who she is and who she is representing and why. Goes through Poz's history at last job. Then bring up my WS. Poz's new AP asks a lawyer why she's representing the Poz wife who was cheated on and me who cheated on my WS. Isn't that kind of a double standard? Lawyer asks what she is talking about. Poz told her the reason my WS took leave of absence and resigned is because I cheated on her. It's going around the department that's the reason she left. Lawyer tells she needs to get facts straight, that Poz was cheating with WS and she, Poz's newest AP, is just the next in line. I guess she didn't take that info very well. Lawyer gets info about their affair. She is married, they have only slept together once, but he has been after her for a while. She tells the lawyer she's going to tell him it's over as soon as she goes back to the office. Lawyer tells her to contact her if Poz pressures her with job to keep sleeping with him. Tells her that how she handles her husband is her business, but that soon all of this is going to come out to HR and that there is most likely to be fallout. Now when OBS tells me about Poz lying about me and why WS left, I went through the effing roof. Had to hang up and started walking around the house swearing and screaming. Even scared my dog. I know these people where WS used to work. She had been there 18 years, and I had been to many company outings with her. Some of them have kids same age as mine and we were involved in school stuff. Little league, etc. When I calm down I call her back and ask her to call Poz and tell him she needs to talk with him. She asks why and I tell her I'll pick her up, I'm going with her. She chuckles and says okay. When we get to his hotel, she knocks on the door and tells him she's here. I'm fuming and can't wait for him to open the door. When he cracks the door I go through it like a cop on a TV show. The door hits him in face and he falls back on the floor. Don't think OBS expected that cause she's telling me to calm down as I'm dragging him in the room calling him every name in the book. I pick him off the floor and pin him against the wall and tell him this time he will be spending time in the hospital and I don't care if I go to jail. How the duck you get off telling people I cheated on my wife? OBS is pulling at my waist telling me to stop, he's not worth it, etc. I'm still screaming at him when I look down and see that I literally have scared the piss out of him. He peed in his pants. I couldn't help myself and let him go as I doubled over in laughter. You pissed your ducking pants. OBS asks him if he is okay and that surprised me so I kinda stopped laughing. She gets closer to him asking him again if he's okay. He says he is as she gets closer. When she is close enough she winds up and kicks him right in the balls. Didn't see that coming. She must have gotten him good cause he is doubled over and really hurt. Now she is calling him names. After a few seconds pass she pushes his head down as she brings her knee up hard to his face, right in the nose. I think she broke his nose causing it to bleed immediately. She turns, grabs my hand and says let's go. As we're walking to my truck I tell her I can't believe you just did that. She tells me she took a woman's self-defense class a few years ago and she has been wanting to do that since D-Day. I tell her we have to stop and have a shot or two to celebrate what she just did. We stop at a place I know to have a few drinks talking about what a Poz is. I drop her off at home and drive home smiling ear to ear about how all worked out. Wonder what BS he'll say at work on Monday. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Finally, some good news. Business not personal but any sun shining on me is good right now. On Friday I was contacted by a home builder that I had been trying to land a contract with, that they have chosen my company as the landscaping contractor for a subdivision where they are building high-end homes on minimum 3/4 acre lots. Can't tell you how happy that made me. The kids and I went to WS's place Saturday to talk. It went about how you would think it would. Very emotional and a lot of angry venting. Our daughter went off on her pretty good. I had to cut her off a few times. Each time WS stopped me and said she needed to say everything that was on her mind and that she, WS, deserves all of it for what she has put our family through. They were both in tears by the time she was done. Son took his turn, not as angry, I think because he has talked to his mom since D-Day. Our daughter hasn't spoken to WS since D-Day, 7 weeks ago. Have to get back to work. Poz's world is going to come crashing down this afternoon. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Okay, so here it is. Poz got scorched this afternoon. I'm retelling some of what was told to me by my/our lawyer and OBS. Earlier in the afternoon, Shark lawyer, SL from now on, made whatever filings she had to make at the county courthouse. Then she emailed the CEO and HR managers of both companies WS was at and his previous employer. Late in the afternoon she showed up at WS company with OBS and WS with her. Her assistant was also there. While SL and OBS went to HR, SL's assistant went to CEO's office to deliver hard copies of court filings. The three women walked into the HR manager's office, closed the door and sat down. HR knows WS but SL introduced herself and OBS. Then proceeds to hand her copy of lawsuit naming company and Poz and sexual harassment lawsuit. Included are sworn affidavits from WS and the next AP detailing Poz behavior and abuse of power. HR managers have the typical corporate response of going to the legal department etc. SL asks HR if she could escort her to Poz's office so she can deliver a copy to him. Before they leave, the CEO bursts into the office with papers in hand saying what the hell is this about? Realizes who else is in the office and mumbles excuse me. SL stands and introduces herself saying I think you know what this is about. The CEO looks at WS and asks is this why you left? SL cuts her off telling her not to answer. SL asks again to be escorted to Poz's office. The CEO asks her to wait outside for a moment. OBS and WS leave and come to building lobby where I'm waiting with AP number 2 from my old job. SL can hear the HR manager and CEO talking in the office. After a few minutes they come out and tell SL to follow them. They arrive at Poz's office and go inside. The CEO tries to introduce SL but forgot her name so she introduces herself. Explains who she represents and starts with handing him divorce papers from OBS saying she is suing him for divorce for infidelity. Next comes papers naming him as co-defendant in sexual harassment lawsuit against him and the company. Then she hands him more papers naming him as co-dependent in sexual harassment lawsuit against him and former company. Finally she gives him papers saying she is seeking to reopen the child support agreement between him and AP number 2. Explains that AP number 2 didn't have proper legal representation and that any new child support claims would be going back to the beginning and seek to attach a claim to any severance pay from the company including current wages as well as his retirement benefits including but not limited to his 401k and any future employment. To say he was in total disbelief would be an understatement according to SL. All he could mumble out was something about what do you mean any future employment. The CEO spoke and said that his employment with the company was terminated effective immediately. He was to turn over keys, company phone and ID and leave immediately. Any personal items would be mailed to him. SL then asked the CEO if he would sign documents along with the HR manager as to both the company and Poz being properly served legal papers. He agreed and asked the HR manager to have security remove him from the building. SL left leaving a card with Poz and telling him to have his lawyer contact her. She comes to lobby and meets me, AP number 2, WS and OBS. Only a few minutes pass when Poz gets off the elevator with security walking him out. The four of us start clapping as he dejectedly walked past us. I fought the urge to say something. AP number 2 couldn't though and said karma's a bitch and so am I, you asshole. After a few minutes goodbyes are said, AP number 2 gives SL a huge hug thanking her, saying she hasn't felt that good in years. WS says goodbye and walks to the elevator saying she's going up to her old department. I'm a little confused, not idea what she is going back there for. SL invites OBS and me out for dinner to discuss and fill in the gaps about what happened today. While at dinner she told OBS what most likely happened concerning divorce filing. I asked her about lawsuits moving forward and she politely told me she couldn't discuss that with me since I'm not involved with those filings. We have a social dinner and go our separate ways. When I get home WS is waiting for me and asks if she can come in. Of course the whole kitchen, LR and Doctor are a mess from remodeling going on. She asks about it and I tell her which design I choose. We talk about that for a minute and head downstairs. This will only take a minute, she says, and goes on to tell me that she went up to her old department to tell the people she worked with what really happened and why she left. A few questions are asked about what happened in Poz's office and she fills them in as best she can. She gives me a hug and says she'll see herself out and that she'll see me at the next MC. After she's gone I went to the backyard and built a fire in the fire pit, went inside and grabbed my newest bottle of bourbon, Angel's Envy, and a glass of ice. I sit by the fire enjoying a few glasses of bourbon while reflecting back on the past 5 weeks. While I'm a long way from feeling normal getting that big contract, Saturday's meeting as a family and today's events have me feeling better than I have since before D-Day. I cannot thank everyone here in this community enough for all the advice, support and encouragement I have received. It means more than I can ever say. Thanks again for everything. P.S. I forgot to mention that while everything was going on with Poz and that company, SL had her investigator deliver papers to Poz's previous employer. Something positive for this thread. Therapy. Heard this song this morning at the gym working out. Helped me with perspective on where I'm at right now. Thought I would share and maybe help someone else. I heard a song while working out today. I'm Alive by Kenny Chesney with Dave Matthews. If you've never heard it, look it up. Starts out so damn easy to say that life's so hard. Everybody's got their share of battle scars. As for me, I'd like to thank my lucky stars that I'm alive and well. It'd be easy to add up all the pain and all the dreams you sat watch go up in flames. Dwell on the wreckage as it smolders in the rain. But not me. I'm alive. Today that's good enough for me. Breathing in and out is a blessing, don't you see? Continues from there. I'm usually not one for that kind of thing, but I like music. This really hit me for some reason. No matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. I've been blessed with 2 great kids who love me, had a successful business that's helped a lot of people have good jobs, hopefully will stay healthy and live a long life and have 29 years of good memories with WS. Whether I add on to those is still unknown, but I'm not going to let that define how I live going forward. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Several people have asked about my best friend, the guy who helped me in the aftermath of D-Day. He and his wife have been so extremely helpful, I can't begin to thank them enough. Finding excuses to stop by the house, making me dinner and dropping it off. Stopping by the office for no good reason. I talk with both of them often, letting them know how I'm doing. The kids are doing okay. Son is handling it better than our daughter. Someone has suggested that one reason she is having a hard time with this is her fiancé. The old, want to know what your GF will look like in 20 years, look at her mom. Maybe the same applies to this. She's freaking out that her fiancé will see WS's infidelity as something that she may do somewhere in their relationship and that he might be having second thoughts about getting married. I hope this isn't the case with him, but I can understand why this is bothering our daughter. Going to figure out a way to deal with this if it is the case before it does irreversible damage. I brought up the idea of a polygraph last week in MCWS took one last week Friday. I'm satisfied with the results. That's all for now. Thanks for all the support and prayers. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Advice. Emotions different or more prevalent? Question for other BSs out there. Do you find that you might be having more emotional reactions to things that have nothing to do with WS and what's going on? This morning at the gym I heard a song called Maggie's Song by Chris Stapleton. If you haven't heard it, look it up. It's about the life of his dog. Near the end there's a line, "I never knew a better dog, I guess I never will." My first black lab has been gone for a while. I have had two since. The one I have now was a huge help D-Day and the days after. Of course, I have thought about the first one, but always in a happy way, thinking about stupid things he would do, or his first pheasant, or playing with the kids in the snow. I still call him the best dog in the history of dogs. Today was different. It was a sad feeling and I miss him. I've been emotional about other things that I never would have been before. So, any other BSs having this happen to them? Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Quick update on Poz. Heard from OBS this morning. She was to have a meeting with Poz and his lawyer at SL's office with SL and OBS. He says nothing, not even hello. His lawyer starts with how the settlement is too one-sided, he'll destroy it in court, let's fix this before things get ugly and more lawyers speak. SL lets him go on till he's done and asks him if he's really serious. The evidence they have, the two lawsuits for sexual harassment pertaining to his abuse of power at his job. His lawyer looks shocked and says hold it a minute, what lawsuits? So SL fills him on the details. His lawyer asked if they could step outside for a moment, he needed to talk to his client. While SL and OBS are outside the conference room, SL says that she knows what the conversation is going on right now, because she has been there herself. Nothing worse as a lawyer than being blindsided by some information that the other side has but you don't because your client didn't tell you everything, no matter how often you ask them is this all you have to tell me? Meeting is over and the lawyer asks them to come in. Informs SL that this conference is over, he no longer represents Poz and he will have to find other counsel. Closes the briefcase, get up from the table and tells Poz that he'll be receiving his bill and walks out. SL is trying not to laugh but tells Poz to call her when he has a new lawyer and offers this advice. Next time be sure to tell your lawyer everything or the next one is walking out and my client wants to get this over with so she can cut you out of her life forever. Tells him he can show himself out and they get up and walk out. God, he is an idiot. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Nothing personal, except to say that today is RS's 50th birthday. Things are progressing well for me and her. Heard from OBS today. Poz is on lawyer number 2. They met today with SL. Short version is that Poz's new lawyer severely underestimated SL. Tried to force his hand in negotiating their settlement agreement. They felt it was too one-sided. SL said so was the way he abused his marriage by having multiple affairs and fathering a child with one of his partners. His lawyer said that there is no proof of that. SL pointed to the lawsuits and sworn depositions from all women involved. SL said that her investigator is digging into Poz's employment history and so far has discovered 2 other women that he had affairs with, one resulting in his termination. She was bluffing but Poz's reaction told her that maybe she should look into that further. Bottom line, they finally agreed to everything OBS wanted and signed the papers. Same lawyer is handling Poz's lawsuits and they wanted to discuss that next so OBS had to leave. SL walked her out and was shaking her head about the bad tactics. Never discuss a second case when you just got your lunch handed to you in the first. Fall back, regroup and schedule another meeting. OBS said she was licking her chops and felt like SL was going to move in for the kill. OBS has gone back to work for her former employer. They welcomed her back with open arms. She has spent the last week and a half learning new software and getting up to date on new tax laws and codes. Told me she hasn't felt this good in a long time. She still hasn't told her children the depth of what a pos is. Said that SL has offered to help get them to her office to discuss technical things about the divorce and slowly fill them in on all the details. She promised to let me know how that goes. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Hi everyone. Just wanted to say thank you for all your comments, support and prayers. RS and I are doing better, slowly moving towards reconciliation. I'm optimistic. After my last post, someone asked about AP number 2. I asked SL about her and she was not doing very well. While SL has filed to reopen her child support case with POS, it takes a while. Of course POS is showing his true colors and is even further behind on child support. AP number 2 is burning through what she got in her divorce and is struggling to find a job because of the pandemic and childcare. I thought I might be able to help her out. I briefly told my year-round staff her story without details and asked if we could pass the hat, that I'd match whatever they felt they could do. Called SL to get AP number 2 address and she said that she would call her and tell her I was coming. First time I met this woman was when POS was escorted from the building after getting fired. She looked tired. We made small talk for a minute and she asked why I wanted to see her. I gave her the $, told her she could relax for a while. She told me that she would pay back every penny when she was back on her feet. I told her that wasn't necessary but she insisted. Then I asked what she did when she was working and she told me. I handed her an application and told her if she didn't mind boring office work, that I could use an extra hand during my busy season. Told her about the daycare on the other end of the complex where my shop/yard is. This was Monday. Tuesday she dropped off the application. She starts next week Monday. No news about POS and the lawsuits. OBS is happy to be back working and seems to be moving on. No word on what she has done regarding telling her kids more information. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Today is Monday. Last Friday was 12 weeks since D-Day. As good a time as any for an update. First, our kids are doing very well. Our son came around more quickly than our daughter. He accepted things and moved on with his relationship with his mom. It took our daughter a little longer, but she is going to IC and has reconnected with her mom. She has involved mom in her wedding plans, so things are looking up. She graduates from college next month and is excitedly looking forward to that. OBS is doing well and seems to be moving on. She has gone back to work with her old company and is excited to be back. She called tonight to tell me that along with SL they sat down and told her 3 kids about what a POS really is. I'm sure it came as a big shock to them to hear about the double life their father, POS, was leading. That he fathered a child in one of his many affairs and that they have a half-brother that they never have met. AP number 2 started working for my company today. We shall see how it works out. Carol, my assistant for the past 20 years, thinks she is going to fit in very well and seems happy to be back at work. Finally, RS and I are slowly and steadily moving towards reconciliation. She has done everything she needs to do. Some incredibly difficult and painful things. Polygraph, apology letter to her, addressed every red flag, triangular flag on post, that stood in the way of reconciliation. At some point seeing all the hard work she was doing, how hard she was fighting was like getting hit over the head for me. If she is fighting this hard, maybe I should get off my ass and get in the game. Some things are worth battling for. We are not there yet, but I am optimistic. Thanks for all of your thoughts, support, concerns and prayers. I really do appreciate all of them. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary update. Okay, yes, there is justice or karma in the world. POS is in jail. Or will be soon if he's not already. I will start at the beginning. As you know, AP number 2 has been working for me for a few weeks, been doing great and fits right in here. Monday she brought me to Starbucks to say thanks for giving her a job, etc. I told her she earned the job and she was probably overqualified for what she was doing for us. We talked for a while about how she was doing, etc. More on that later. Then she asked if it would be okay if she was gone for a few hours tomorrow, Tuesday. She had a hearing with SL about her child support. I told her of course. Tuesday around noon she said she was leaving. She came back afterwards beaming and explained what happened and why she was so happy. First, Pos didn't show up. Judge asked his attorney where he was and he said he didn't know. I told him he needed to be here. Judge was not happy. Asked if everyone present was ready to proceed, so he did. Stated in legal terms that they were on the record in the matter of X versus Y, more legal stuff, and the judge asked if the Pos attorney had a phone number for him. Ask SL if she had any objections to calling Pos and using that in place of him actually taking time to show up. SL said that would be fine. Made sure everyone was in position to hear the speaker's phone and made the call. Pos answered. Judge asked if it was him and then identified himself as Judge Wapner. Sorry, couldn't resist. And they were on speakerphone and on the record in the matter of X versus Y. Asked why Pos wasn't there and Pos said his attorney told him he didn't need to be. Judge told him that it's not a good idea to lie directly to a judge, even though this isn't sworn testimony. Not a good start. Your attorney has said he advised you to be here and I believe him. After that asked Pos questions for 10 to 15 minutes. Why was he behind on child support? Has he gotten a job? Where is he living, etc. Asked SL if she had anything else she needed from Pos. She didn't, and he asked Pos if he was okay with his attorney representing him from that point without him being on the phone. Said he was, and the judge ended the phone call. Asked the Pos attorney if he had anything to add. He made a show of trying to say he was presently unemployed, etc. The judge responded that he's further behind, that he's been out of work. SL then got her turn and she went to work. AP number 2 said it was brilliant and made it look like she really got shafted the first time around. Judge said he would look at everything and issue his ruling shortly. 30 minutes later they were all back in front of the judge. In a bunch of legal speak he sided with AP number 2 and she got more child support, and Pos will have to make up the difference in what she was shorted from the beginning. Asked the Pos attorney if he wanted to file a motion to appeal the ruling, and he told the judge that will be up to the Pos new attorney. After this hearing he will no longer be representing Pos. Judge then said he would have a county sheriff deliver all legal documents from the hearing to Pos at the extended stay hotel where he is residing. Also, due to the fact that he was more than 6 months behind in child support, he was issuing an arrest warrant for Pos and would have Pos taken into custody when the sheriff delivered the documents. AP number 2 was grinning from ear to ear as she gave me the details. Of course I was listening to them. As far as AP number 2 knows, Pos spent the night in jail. I'm going to call SL today and see if there's anything else she can tell me. All I can say is he may finally get what he deserves. Caught wife cheating day before anniversary. Update. Reconciliation. So as RS and I moved inch by inch towards reconciliation, I had a small personal milestone. Nothing major, but it hit me when it happened. Went to purchase a new fishing license today. At the store the clerk asked if I wanted to get another husband and wife license. Yesterday was 16 weeks since D-Day. 2 months ago I would not have said yes, but today I didn't give it a second thought. Just nodded yes. Kinda cheesy, I know, but I'll take it. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. Please let us know what you think of the long form. Also please like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.